Hello, Pete Moriarty here. Great to be here with you. Today we're talking about my journey of being a remote CEO, and that's basically my journey of traveling and being on the road and living the life of my dreams, which is a life of travel and adventure and exploration, while still running a multi-million-dollar business with now over 50 employees across the group of multiple companies. And that's been, to be honest, a pretty interesting challenge. Over the years, as we grew and scaled our business, I decided that I didn't want to be stuck in one location. I read The 4-Hour Workweek, which is an amazing book by Tim Ferriss, and I decided that I didn't really want to just go to work in an office in one place. And so about 6 or 7 years ago, I started making movements in the business to actually switch for me to be able to work remotely. And this is a little bit of part of my story in how I did that. Now, we've only previously shared this with our customers inside our Genius Academy. So this is the first time I'm sharing some of these things externally to the public. So if you don't know who we are itGenius, and we're a small and medium business consulting firm, and primarily we work with consulting around technology. And so what our mission is to really help small businesses play a bigger game by getting the right technology strategy in place, which means that you can grow and scale, have more flexibility, have more profit, have more money, have more options, and for you, the entrepreneur, live the life of your dreams. And we've worked with literally thousands of business owners, tens of thousands of employees across those businesses, and we've received hundreds and hundreds of 5-star reviews from all of our best customers, and we want to share our messages with the world. We want to help businesses as much as possible. Now, how do we do that? Well, we take businesses through our growth roadmap, and that is whatever stage of business you're at, whether you're just starting, you don't have any employees yet, or maybe you're, you've grown up as a business and you're starting to get some structures in place. We've got different technology strategies that will work for you, different pieces of software that we think are critical for different stages of business, and a team that will help to chaperone you through the growth of your business to help make sure that your business is successful as the business grows and scales. So the first section of this video is going to be about the reality of being a remote CEO. What does it actually take to run a business remotely, and how do I actually do that inside my business? So about 6 months ago, I bought one of my dream vehicles, which is where I'm broadcasting from right now. It's called an Expedition truck. And this is basically a 4-wheel drive camper truck. And this truck is designed to go off-road and pretty much go everywhere. And it's fully self-contained. It's got a bathroom, it's got a shower, it's got a kitchen. You can see my sink there behind me. And basically this truck is my adventure machine, but I also needed to be able to actually work from it as well. And while I'm in the stage of being kind of semi-retired in the business, in that we've got enough employees that most of the day-to-day things can be pretty much taken care of without my direct involvement, I'm still obviously actively involved in the business. I'm the founder, I'm the current CEO of the business, and so that means there's still a level of interaction required for me to be a part of the business, and that means that I have to manage my responsibilities. And so the number one thing for me to really think about as I balance out the difference between, well, when am I having leisure time and when am I actually having business time, is this balance between work and play. And what I see is for many business owners, and particularly kind of boomer business owners, and this is my parents' generation, where they would work, and then they'd have a holiday. And then they'd go and work, and then they'd have a holiday. And Tim Ferriss really kind of broke the mold on that for a lot of people in his book, The 4-Hour Workweek, when he said, well, why don't you have lots of short mini breaks, or design your life so it feels holiday-ish, so you don't have to kind of do that grind or that long slog, and then, go and have a holiday, which is a bit like a hangover. And I know for many entrepreneurs, they actually get sick on holidays because it's the only time that they properly stop. Or maybe you don't stop when you're on holidays because you're still in hustle mode and you take your laptop and your phone with you, and we're all kind of connected all the time. And so I wanted to do things differently. I wanted my life to kind of be like always on holiday and never on holiday. And what I mean by that is have a work-life balance where I'm really doing things that I love doing every day, not necessarily work, or work as people would call work, which means, to me, sitting on meetings or replying to emails, but have a life where I have the flexibility to be where I want location-wise and do what I want activity-wise. And so that was basically my dream, is to do engaging work that's impactful, work with a team that I love working with, but still obviously have it in a way that works for me. And I've been able to do that quite successfully. We've grown and scaled our business, itGenius, to quite a large team now. There's over 50 employees, and I've got basically as much freedom as I like now. I'm able to take time away from work. Last week, I actually did have a full 10 days off because I was at a festival and a training that was completely like phone off and in the wilderness and no reception, and I wanted to take that time off. But for the most part, I have all the freedom that I desire, but I also still retain all of the responsibility of the business. And I think this is really the balancing act for a business owner, is not to abdicate any parts of the business. You still have to actually keep the responsibility of managing the business, but also having the discipline and the diligence to have time to yourself. So let's talk about what things work well when I'm on the road and what are some of the things where I have some challenges. Well, first up, what things worked well? For me, actually sitting down and doing work, sitting in a camper truck, and I'm sitting at my kind of kitchen table here at the moment, works pretty darn well. For me, I spend most of my time on meetings during the day, and when I spend most of my time on meetings, what that means is that I'm just sitting here chatting away to my team, and it's pretty straightforward to do that. Now, I've got a little iPad mini set up here. Actually, it might even be an iPad Air, I think. It's the latest one, one of the smaller ones. And I've got my laptop here, which I use to do my work. And effectively, this setup means that I don't have to invest in having something like multiple monitors. And for me, I can just have my meetings dedicated on one device and then actually do any work that I want to do on another device. What I often find is when I'm in a meeting talking to my team, I'm also going to be making notes in one of the apps that I use, Asana, for maybe meeting minutes, or maybe I'm, dishing out some action items in there, or maybe I'm reading an article, or I've got a presentation and I want to actually present that into the meeting. It's nice to have a second device there so I'm not flicking between different tabs. So that's kind of like the first thing. And to be honest, because most of my time is spent on meetings and on calls, I'm pretty comfortable to sit here for most of the day. Now, at home, there's one thing that I do miss, and that's that I had a great stand-up desk at home and an anti-fatigue mat that I can stand on all day long, and that kind of keeps my body a little bit more active. And so I'm in the process of setting up a monitor and a stand-up desk setup. So in my truck, I'll have a stand-up organization of some sort, and I will keep you posted on how that goes. But for now, this is how things work. So what hasn't worked well? What's been the most frustrating part about working on the road? Well, that's the obvious one, is the connectivity issues. Actually making sure I can somehow stay connected to my team when there's potentially not great service. And this is honestly the balancing act of being on the road. Obviously, I'm reliant on 4G for me to do my work. I'm not going to internet cafes or Wi-Fi hotspots or anything like that. I'm working from mobile internet, and so internet connectivity is a big one and really important. And I'm going to take you through some of the specific tech that I use to do that. Now, the easiest way for me to manage sometimes being offline and sometimes being online is basically for me to choose my work days. Basically choose days that I know that I'm going to be available to my team. And when I set that expectation, they know that for me on Mondays and Fridays, I'm probably not really going to be available because they're my non-work days. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are my work days. They're the times when I'm going to be active and available. I'm usually starting my meetings from around 10 or 11 a.m. and I'm wrapping them up by 3 or 4 p.m. And they're basically the days that my team can expect me to be active and expect me to be responsive. And what that means is if they drop a task to me on a Friday, I'm probably not going to get to it till the Tuesday. And so things that have a regular cadence, like maybe approving payroll or approving supplier payments, or jumping into meetings with suppliers, or jumping into strategic type meetings, they're going to need to be scheduled on the days that I'm actually available for working. And so my calendar literally looks like it's only got those 3 days free. And then either side on the other days, I can actually set my Google Calendar to be out of office, and it's automatically just going to decline any of those meetings. The other cool thing that Google does is when you set your calendar to be out of office, it actually puts a little message in chat. So if someone wants to send me a message inside of Google Chat, it'll say Peter is out of the office and he'll be back on the next Tuesday. Makes it super duper obvious for anyone who's maybe trying to get in touch with me.